Hi Math 65. This is the video for lesson 112, which is located on page 580 of your textbook and is scheduled for April 13th, Monday, April 13th. So let's do a little bit of review and then we'll jump into the lesson. Okay. A factor. We have worked with, I call it math vocabulary all year long, and last year too. A factor times a factor gives us a product. Remember, a factor, when we think of factors, it divides into a whole number with no remainder evenly. Or another way to say that is it divides in evenly. There will be no remainder. So if we look over here for factors of 10, and if we had to list the factors of 10, we would start with 1, and that divides in evenly, and 2 divides in evenly, and then we go, 3 doesn't, 4 doesn't, 5 divides in evenly, and 10. Those are the factors of 10. These are the numbers that divide evenly into this whole number with no remainder. So those are factors. I tell you that because we're going to start dealing with multiples, which to me, factors and multiples, when I was your age, I always got them confused. So that's why I go back and review this a lot with you. Some of you may wish I didn't, but I promise you, I do it because I love you and because I got them so confused when I was your age. So a multiple, I always tell you when you hear the word multiple to think multiply. And particularly with a multiple, you multiply by the counting numbers. Remember, our counting numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on. So if we were going to do the multiples of 10, it would be the same as 10 times 1, which is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. 10 times 3 is 30. And 10 times 4 is 40, and so on. Okay? Multiples of 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, onwards of 100, 1,000. All those are multiples of 10. So multiple, think multiply by the counting numbers. Multiple, multiply, factor, divide. Okay? I tell you that to help keep that straight as review. So we're going to move on to today's lesson, which is least common multiple. Okay? We've done a greatest common factor. We're not dealing with factors today. We're dealing with multiples. Multiple, multiply. So the least common multiple is the smallest number that is a multiple of 2 or more numbers. Okay? So what does that look like? So let me grab, I have some examples written. So when you see this in a problem, it will tell you find the least common multiple. It'll be abbreviated typically LCM, least common multiple, of each pair of numbers. And it'll be abbreviated that way because that's a whole lot to write out, least common multiple. LCM's a lot easier. So let's start with a couple examples. Okay, so if I'm supposed to find the least common multiple of 3 and 4, I know the multiple I'm supposed to multiply. So I'm going to take my 3 and 4 and I'm going to write them down. And I'm going to start multiplying them by the counting numbers. The way I do that, 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. Or the other way you could look at it is counting by 3s. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 6 is 18. And I'm going to stop there. Okay? You may, and at first you won't have to go very far. When you get into higher maths, you have to go a lot further. So let's start with 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. I'm just going to stop there because I already have a common. Remember, when we dealt with common factors, it was a factor that both of them had. So a common, the least common multiple. So we want the lowest number that both of them have as a multiple. It's another way of saying that. The lowest number both of them have as a multiple. So if we look at my list here and we find the lowest number that they both have as a multiple is 12. So the least common multiple of 3 and 4 is 12. Okay? Now, I know some of you are thinking, oh, you just multiply 3 times 4 to get the least common multiple. That's not true, because it's not always going to turn out that way. Sure, sometimes it may, but you cannot go that route, because most of the time it's going to be wrong. So you have to write out the multiples for each one, multiply it by the counting numbers, write out the list, and find the lowest number they both have in common. Okay, let's look at 5 and 10. So the multiples of 5 are 5 and 10 and 15. I'll throw that one in there too. Say times 1, 5 times 2, 5 times 3. 10 times 1, 10 times 2, 10 times 3. And I'm not going to go any further because I already see I have a common number. The lowest common multiple of these two numbers is 10. Okay? So we've done this before, like I said, working with factors. This time we're going to work with multiples. So I'm going to write out my numbers, 3 and 9, and start making my list. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. And I'm going to stop because I think I probably already have my number. 9 times 1, what am I doing? 9. 9 times 2, 18. I'm going to stop because I see I already have my lowest common multiple here is 9. Okay? So you just simply take the two numbers, write out the multiples for each individual number, take the number times 1, the number times 2, the number times 3, the number times 4, and on and on and on as far as you need to go until you get to the point you have the lowest common multiple. And that is what that is. This will be used to help you with fractions in the future. So if you have, I know in your practice problems, you have fractions. And so if you had the fraction 5/8 and then 3/10, and you needed to find the lowest common multiple of those numbers, you would write out your two numbers, 8 and 10, and write out your factors. Don't let the fact that it's in a fraction form confuse you. You're simply using these two denominators here and doing the same thing we've done on all these, okay? So you would just list out your multiples there, okay? So you have 8, and 8 times 1, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24, 8 times 4 is 32, 8 times 5 is 40, 8 times 6 is 48, 8 times 7 is 56. I'm going to stop there. And then 10, you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And I'm going to stop there because I already see I have a common one. So this is actually one of your practice problems. It is this. This is practice problem G. Okay? So this is how you work it out. Don't let the fact that it's in a fraction confuse you. You're still finding the least common multiple. That's all you have to do, just like we've done on all our other examples. Okay? So your practice problems are on, I'm out of, let's see, I'll write it over here. Practice problems are on page 581. Okay? And there'll be another video coming for lesson 113.